Now, during the early stages of forging down, while that block is still big and heavy, it takes quite a long time to come back up to temperature. But then when we get it into the press, because it's a big block, it doesn't lose the heat quite so quickly, so we get a bit more forging time. As the billet gets longer and thinner, so it heats up quicker, but then so it slows down, cools down quicker when it goes into the forge. So we don't get quite so much time to do the forging. Everything in metallurgy is a compromise, always making allowances for something.
Hi, this is Vince from the UK Blade Show and welcome to episode 3, part 2. In this video series, Graham Clarke is going to be showing us the forge welding process. But before we proceed with the description of this video, I thought I'd share with you that this video was actually made possible by a handful of people. Number one is Multi-Tool Products Europe. They supply and distribute the 84 engineering belt grinders, very popular for knife making. Got B&D abrasives, they supply and distribute some industrial angle grinders, and obviously the cutting and the grinding discs to go with those. And also GFS Knife Supplies, they have some of the biggest range of abrasive belts for knife making, including the 3M Cubitron 2, the Norton belts, the shredders. They also do the carbon steels for knife making, quenching oil for heat treatment, a big variety of handle materials, and also the rock blade heat kilns. All of those links are in the description below, so make sure you check them out and click those links after you watch this video. Now back about this video, and like I said earlier, it's the forge welding process, and I think it's worth watching all the way through because Graham is not just going to show us some tricks and some tips that he's got with his vast experience that he's going to share with us. He's also going to show you the different machines that he's got available, some of which are really amazing. Again, I hope you enjoy the video. Just in case you're new to this channel, if you're interested in knife making videos, bladesmithing, doesn't matter what kind of knives you're into, whether it's bushcraft, EDCs, hunters, kitchen knives, or anything in between, make sure you click that like. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click that little bell notification so we'll get to tell you when a new video is out. So now back to the show.
We're lucky we've got nice big doors, so we've got plenty of ventilation, and we get a nice view as well. Because my welding is rather bad, we've got a little bit too much. What we don't want to do is forge that weld into the actual material. Otherwise it will show up as a white band, and we don't want that in there. But we just need enough weld on there to hold these layers together so they don't spring apart while we're going through the basic welding process. So we just go through to one of the grinders. Go. That's it. So all I've done is taken off the big lumps so it doesn't look quite so much like a bunch of grapes, my welding now, which it often does, but it'll hold together. So now that's ready to go into the forge. There, we're nice and hot there. Get him right into the middle of the hot zone. Close the doors up a little bit. That'll take 10 minutes or so. Let the heat soak right through to the middle. Now if you have a look at the press behind you, you'll see we've got 2 pairs of dies in the same set. That one on the right hand side, that's completely flat. We just use that for flattening, straightening and keeping the billet in good order. These on the left hand side here, they are radiused. If you look at the end you can see it's slightly radiused on the top, and the upper die is exactly the same. So that means that when we press the metal in there, it stretches it out far more that way than it does sideways. And that's what we want. We use those dies for forging out the longer length. Yeah, that colour tells me we're about 1150. So I can see the billet is starting to get a bit hot now. So I'm just going to set down, I'm not actually going to weld it now. I'm just going to make sure that all those layers are perfectly set together and ready for the welding op which comes next. Okay, so it just comes into the forge. I just put him in my flat dies and I give him a little squeeze. That's it. Now she goes back in again. Get him really hot this time. Now, during the early stages of forging down, while that block is still big and heavy, it takes quite a long time to come back up to temperature. But then when we get it into the press, because it's a big block, it doesn't lose the heat quite so quickly, so we get a bit more forging time. As the billet gets longer and thinner, so it heats up quicker, but then so it slows down, cools down quicker when it goes into the forge. Right, so it's coming nice and hot again now. So now I'm going to start forging down, pulling those layers out so make them much thinner and longer, ready for restacking. It goes into the forge, a little bit at a time. That's it. There we go. You can see all the layers on the side. They're getting thinner as the billet gets bigger. I'm going to start making that from a rectangle now more into a square billet. Now if you look carefully back into the forge, you can see the metal is a much darker colour. That's because the temperature's lower, it's got cold while it's been in the forge itself. As it gets hot again, so the colour of the steel billet will come up so it's looking the same kind of colour as the actual brickwork around it. That tells me it's up to temperature. Okay, so we're just about up to temperature. It's just a case of heat after heat, keep him in the forge. Square up the sides. She's starting to get longer but smaller. Just keep on with that process until we got it longer. I want to keep it at about 40-45 millimeters wide. It's a bit wider than that now, so I should be narrowing it down a bit and still making it longer. Now you can really see how much it's cooled down this time. I need to go in a little bit more. I'm going to move that. Okay. It's getting quite a bit longer now. Square up the sides. In for the next heat. Even thickness. Just flatten him out a bit. Straighten that bend out of it. Because the weight is on the side of it. Just give me a second. Many years ago when they made these, they would always put the weight on the side. 5, a 1 and a 24. Now this is all in imperial units, so that's 5 hundredweight, 1/4 of a hundredweight, which is 28 pounds, plus 24 pounds. So it's 5 times 112, plus 28, plus 24. When you add that lot up and divide it by 2.204, you come to 263 kilos, which is just over 1/4 of a ton. It's not easy to move that one. That one in. You see now with this die, we've got 2 little stops on either end, so I can bring it down and that will come down and she'll land on there. And I just can't make it any thinner than that. That helps me to control the thickness down to about where I want it. So I'm pushing it down hard now, small little bites, and that's setting that thickness to around about 20 millimeters. That's it. It's a nice even thickness now. I need to get it nice and straight and get the bends out of it. So I'm going to change dies to do that. So I'm going to put him back in to get hot again. And I'm going to change the dies again. This time I'm going to put my flattening dies in. Get him nice and flat. These dies being really long, They're not going to forge thickness, they're just going to take the bends out. More. So now you can see we have a billet which is nice and straight, nice constant thickness. Now we're going to cut that, restack it, and put a lot more layers into it. It's only got 24 layers in for now. We're going to cut him, stack him up, get 72, and then we're going to do the same again, take it up to 216 layers. Okay. Now, talking about the dragon's breath that's coming out the front of that forge, George killed a dragon just up the road here, a place called White Horse Hill, and you can see the little place where the dragon landed. St. George slayed him with his sword, and where that dragon's blood flowed into the ground, and you can see the top of the hill, there's this big patch in the middle, there's no grass on it, my boy.